Hello everyone, here I'm back in the video lecture and today we're going to discuss the adult bone development. Basically, adult bone development is like, as you know, the adult bone is simply less flexible than the children's bone due to loss of collagen, especially with aging. Okay, so with age, bones become more brittle, like they become so hard, so tight, and fracture risks are going to increase in the later stage of your life. Okay, or in that you can just say in the later decades of your life. So, as the studies shows that bone mineral density increases during the childhood and adolescence, okay, majorly. So, what would happen is when the peak bone mass is achieved, the peak bone mass is basically achieved in women around 25 to 28 years and in men around 30 to 35 years. So peak bone mass determines like whether how much your bone getting strength or bone strength later in your life. So simple as that, you need to understand that these are the major years of your bone to become so strong and get strength to use that in later of your life. Okay, so bone loss with aging. Okay, that means after the peak bone mass, bone density basically may stay stable briefly for some times. But bone density and strength can start declining in early 20s or 30s. So as the studies shows majorly. So aging leads to like decreased bone strength, reduced mechanical properties, increased bone porosity. So these are the major things that are occur with aging. Like bone strength is going to decrease, mechanical properties are going to be reduced in your bone, and other than that, bone porosity that is going to be increased. So that means your bones are going to become weak, they become porous, or like you can just say that they become losing their collagen and other things, and they become like holes in the bones in simple way. Okay, not the exact holes, but these are the kind of holes that are present in your bone and make your bone porous. So changes in the bone structure, okay, we can just see like I am just going to highlight the major points so you can just understand where we have studied that. Okay, now the major thing that we have to study is the change in the bone structures. Okay, you just say that the changes in the bone structure according to age. Okay, so the loss of bone substances occurs with age. Like simple is that the bone substances are going to be loose. Any kind of bone substance that is present in your bone is going to be loose later on your life. After that, your tubercular bone is most of the bone that is going to be affected. The vacuolar bone is the spongy bone, as we have discussed before. The vacuolar bone becomes thin and disconnected, and bone structures, because of that, the bone structure is going to become weak, and fractures are basically increases with age. Okay, that's why we can discuss, and you need to understand the concept that the spongy bone is the major factor that is going to be affected, and that increases the chances of what fracture in your later stages of your age, or you can just say that in the older patients or in the elderly patients, the fracture risks are going to be increased due to the spongy bone is going to be affected due to becoming the thin or disconnected and bone structure becoming weak. Okay. Now the gender differences is the major thing that we have to discuss. Like bone loss is more severe in women. Always remember that. So that means that these changes are more pronounced in women than in men. Okay. So, as you know, the decrease in cortical bone volume and density, as we have discussed, that in women they are more than the men. Okay, like you can just say that the slightly more. Most of them are similar in men and women, like decrease in cortical bone volume and density with age, decrease in tubercular bone density with age. Both are similar, but the bone loss rate 0.5 to 1 per year until the age of 50. It is like you can just say that until the age of 50 it become or going to be increased after menopause. Okay, after menopause it becomes like 6.5% per year for 5 to 8 years. Like you can just say that after menopause or after the age of 50 it becomes so rapid that bone is going to be deteriorated so much. But other than that, all the things are same in men, because in men there is no menopause, there is no kind of these kind of things. So the bone loss is slower than the woman. Okay, because menopause is affecting most of your body's hormones, so that's why it can affect your bone loss or bone basically, especially the bone structures. So as we have discussed, early 50s 0.5 to 1% per year both in men and women, but in the later stages women are going to get more menopause, more bone loss, like 6.5% per year for 5 to 8 years. Okay, in your book there are these quantities I mentioned, so I have just taken all the materials from book. These are the researches they have told, that the researches are the research articles basically show that. Okay, so as we have discussed, in men similar bone changes occur. They start basically, the changes start later in life, because in a woman it basically occurs early, like after 30s or after 28 it is going to be start. But in man maybe 30 35, after 35 it basically starts. So bone loss is majorly slower in man. So now male versus basically woman has the smaller bones, less cortical bone area. That's why majorly the woman is going to be affected more. Okay, so volumetric bone mineral density is similar in both men and women, but the woman has smaller bones as compared to the men, and same for that the cortical area or cortical bone area in women is present less than men. Okay, so that is very important to understand regarding the physiotherapy concept, that you know the increased risk of osteoporosis, you know the fragility fractures, you know that after some age content there might be a fracture due to fragile bones. Okay, fragile basically